So in front of us today, we have obviously a very striking bottle. What is this expression?
So this is our newest whiskey. This is Woven Super Blend.
Cool.
And
Love it already.
Thank
Sold.
you very much. Yeah, absolutely. It's in the name,
Yeah.
Super Blend. And so what this is actually our first whiskey that we've looked outside of Scotland for the component parts. So within Super Blend, you have about 70% Scotch whiskey, predominantly some lightly peated malts, some beautiful sherried Speyside coming through, and then some grain components, including quite a rare coffee malt
Okay. Yeah.
from Scotland. And so you have a great sort of base and great foundation of Scotch going on there, about 70%. And then 30% of the whiskies are actually from other parts of the world. So we've got some beautiful, quite old American bourbon, as well as a kind of a weird and wacky sour mash whiskey from the States as well, that brings in like sort of like like a sort of like a candy toffee sort of
Okay.
vibe.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
really yummy, very distinctive. Like I think that when you taste it, you'll definitely be able to be like, oh, that's what he's referring to.
Yeah. And that sort of combination of flavors is probably something a lot of people have never done before, because it's a totally, not maybe not illogical, but a fairly out the box thinking to take, Scotch and
I think it's definitely out of the box.
yeah.
Scotch plus American is definitely strange, but then when you start bringing in like a super silky, glossy Irish grain whiskey that's again really quite old,
Yeah.
and some German whiskey that was like full of what I call funk, but it's almost like that organic, natural wine style sort of fermenty sort
Yep.
of thing coming through, and then some like stunning, heavily sherried English whiskey from Norfolk that used
Yep.
like local barley.
Yeah. Cool.
You start to paint a picture of, okay, well, this whiskey isn't just a sort of a blend of nameless Scotch whiskies. We've actually got real characteristics that have come from elsewhere across the world to create something that we hope and believe is very accessible. It's a drinking whiskey. It's there to be sipped neat, but also mixed down. And
Yeah, I love whiskies with complexity to it, and obviously it's difficult with blending sometimes to give the full ingredient list of what's in it. But when you've even got a rough idea of the types of components that have gotten into it, when you revisit it, you often, the older Irish grain might be more prominent sometimes, or sometimes it might be the peated element to it.
Yeah.
It's a different experience each time you try it sometimes.
it was a really interesting. I mean, this you can use this absolutely, but it is an interesting aspect to making this whiskey that because you're not allowed to make a non-Scotch in Scotland.
Yeah.
Part of the fun laws around Scotch production, we had to actually blend it and bottle it down in England.
Okay.
And because of that, there's some of the constraints that you have with Scotch were sort of unshackled with this whiskey.
Yeah.
So we are actually allowed to talk very freely about the percentage levels, about the distilleries that we used, about the total makeup and the time that we've spent making this whiskey that is almost quite shrouded in mystery in Scotch blending. But it's a really nice, freeing.
Yeah, that transparency must be quite refreshing going
It's super.
south of the border.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's something that we'd love to do with all of our whiskies, but and to an extent we try and push the envelope as far as we can with talking about what's in them. But with Super Blend specifically, we're really able to talk about George Dickel and Cooley and St. Killian's and all these wonderful names that you don't hear about really in blended whiskey.
That's brilliant. So we'll give this a little try, shall we? I say it sounds super. Cheers. When obviously most of our sort of tasting videos and stuff we've done before are, tends to be single malt Scotch, and sometimes you do the whole colour, legs, body thing.
Oh yeah.
For blends, is that still applicable, do you think? Or is it kind of redundant if you're mixing 45-year-old whiskey with 5-year-old whiskey? And
I don't think anything's redundant. I think that whiskey needs to be your own journey through a
Yep.
glass, right?
Yeah.
As whatever you make of that
Yeah.
sentence, you can. But I mean, the way that I come to a whiskey is I definitely start looking at it first. You know, I do spend my time going, okay, well, what am I able to gather from the whiskey before I've even sipped it? And I know that you guys are definitely, you know, part of that ilk where you will sort of set, you know, so it's a good thing to spend a bit of time going through it. So we don't chill filter any of our whiskies, and we tend to bottle above 45.5%. So this whiskey here is 46.1.
Sure.
The reason why it's at that strength is that for me, whilst making the whiskey, it sipped perfectly here. I love drinking whiskey in highballs. I love drinking it like really, really low ABV with the water. And for me, being able to mix super blend was imperative whilst making it. So 46%, 47% was the butter zone. We chose 46.1 because for me, you don't need to add any water. It's great for sipping. You know, the color you can see, we don't add any caramel coloring. A lot of blended whiskies, you'll see perhaps
We're all the same color.
they exaggerate their color. We don't. So this is 100% natural, and you know you can see that through the legs that one of our big focuses is on texture. You know, we look for a viscosity within all of woven whiskies. So that's kind of very much at the forefront of our thinking whilst making them. That flavor follows texture, and texture is kind of the biggest factor whilst blending. So yeah.
Cool. Beautiful. So we give it a little sniff. Is there a kind of top note on the nose?
Yeah, so for me, Super Blend has always been about capturing sort of two elements, and that's sort of a sort of a candied citrus and a sort of savory herbal element. I love the balance between sort of that savory and sweet. It's almost sort of walking through a sort of this is somewhere I've not actually been, but like a Provence sort of, you know, you get the herb de Provence. You've also got like the sweetness in the air. And I love the idea of it being in a warehouse in Leith. Doesn't really get that too much, but I do love the savory and sweet together. A little bit tinned fruit, sort of pineapple, lychee.
Yeah, I think it's like a stark contrast to so many of your, you know, sort of supermarket blends, if you like, where you nose it, you think, right, I get it. Yeah, I think, you know, it's got maybe one element to it, and it's kind of one-dimensional. This one, the more you revisit, the more of the kind of subtle aromas come out.
A little bit of the peat comes through. I mean, I think when you taste it, you're not going to be like, this is a peated whiskey. It's only got about, I think it's like 7% of the whiskey is lightly peated in itself. So when you sort of scale that up, we're not talking about you being able to get much of the smoke, but it is a little bit of salt and pepper on the backbone there that comes through in it, and I can get it on the nose. For me, it was all about trying to capture, I suppose, just those two base elements within this blend, which was the I suppose this herbs de Provence. I don't know what I mean by that. I think almost like a chartreuse.
Okay. Yeah, it's there's not much else like chartreuse.
No, exactly.
When you've had it, you think, that's
But there was a combination of whiskies, and I don't necessarily know where it came from because it started to develop as we were blending, and you started to pick it up a bit more and a bit more. And I was going, that's really beautiful. And if we're able to preserve it as opposed to trying to blend it away, I think that it's a note that is complex and interesting and robust. And I didn't want to lose that at all whilst making this whiskey. And I think that
and so unusual in most whiskies as well to have something that so kind of quirky, like that. And it's it'd be a shame to just, you know, overpower it with cherry or peat or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's beautiful. Should we give it a little taste and see how much that comes through? Yeah, it's so. I think. Yeah, it's for me. It's all obviously blends.
Yep.
there's so many connotations to that. And for me, this encapsulates all the good connotations of blends, and that it's kind of everything's in proportion, everything's balanced. There's not one element that's shouting above the other ones.
Yeah.
But it's not one dimensional. It's not flat. It's not simple.
No.
It's kind of delicate and elegant, and it's got that sophistication to it, I feel like.
I hope so. I mean, I really, really enjoy drinking it. It's a very, very easy to drink whiskey, but for me, what I love about Super Blend especially is that it's got the complexity in there that you're able to sit down and go, right, well, if I'm starting at this point, so it starts with quite a sweet top note, and then it goes through a bit of a journey through sort of these herbal and like a menthol
What you mean?
element to it, and then it ends up with just a breath of not even dry smoke, but a very sort of a sweet barbecue coming
It's very like it's like a wispy finish.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's beautiful.
And yeah, so texture, balance, complexity. Those are the three things that we try and harness if we can whilst making our whiskies now. And I think that Super Blend especially has those three really quite nicely lined up. So
yeah. So with it being called Super Blend, do you think this is kind of sort of the pinnacle of what blends could be? Do you feel this encapsulates, perhaps more than other expressions, what Woven aim to create and what?
It's called Super Blend because it's a combination of different whiskies from from different parts of the world, and so we thought about it in the same way that you'd put together like a supergroup.
Okay.
I mean, of course, Busted and McFly is the one that comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
And so no, we
ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Took it away.
But we wanted to make something that was like truly greater than the sum of its parts. And so by using whiskies from all these different geographical regions, we thought that the word Super Blend, we wanted to really own the word blend as well. I think that people sort of shy away from it and go, blending, what's that? Or not even what is that, but why don't I like that word? But we wanted to say, no, this is great. This is super, this is fantastic. So it's called Super Blend for that real reason. Is that it's a super blend.
Yeah.
It's going to be part of a continuous series.
Okay.
So, I should say a continuous batch release.
Sure.
So this is batch 1. It's going to develop in terms of whiskies from different distilleries from different parts of the world. It's not just going to stay as one recipe.
Okay.
So there's going to be variation. And I hope, as a customer, if you wanted to, you'd be able to track sort of variations and where it goes, which we're really excited to sort of shout about.
Do you know where it's going to go? As it evolves over time, do you have an idea? Is it going to become more, more smoky, or is it going to become more?
We're having conversations with some really great producers, and certainly a couple of them make some beautiful, like they specialize in beautiful peated whiskey.
Sure.
So we might well have a super blend. We might have 2 strands of super blend that go towards non-peated and peated.
Yeah.
But the catch-all is really just being able to use whiskies from different parts of the world. So now we're speaking. Now that we've made this first batch, we're now actively sourcing all the whiskey for the second batch. So we've got not just the 5 countries that we're already that we've already got whiskies from. We're now speaking to people in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, can't remember, France.
I suppose that's what makes blends great. Each time there's a new batch, you think, it's almost a clean canvas. And you think, there might be similarities you want to carry over from previous batches, but it's, broadening horizons and pushing boundaries. But no, this is an absolutely stunning drop. And I think for those who have disregarded blends as being one-dimensional and boring and lacking depth and character, this is a 2 fingers up to them. In a very gentle, woven, polite way.
We love them as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. By balls. But no, it's great stuff, and real achievement. So
thank you very much. We appreciate it.